So in today's video, I'm going to review a custom gravel race bike by a builder out here in Portland, Oregon, Smeltzer Bicycles. Find out what I think of it in this video. Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, and if you're new to the channel, if you're into gravel riding, bike touring, the supple life, you have found your people, hit that subscribe button. And if you dig content like this, consider supporting the channel by buying a patch or joining us on Patreon and PayPal. All the links below. Every bit helps this content train moving. So as you may notice, a little change of scenery here. I'm actually in Portland, Oregon, just off the tails of Sea Otter. And while I'm here, I'm going to be reviewing two custom bikes. This is the first of two videos. The other bike I'm reviewing is a super light rain touring bike by the folks at Northern Cycles. So if you're into custom bikes, you're going to be in for a treat with the next couple of videos. So Smeltzer is a relatively new brand to me. I know he showed recently at NABS. One of his bikes got reviewed in Bicycle Quarterly, and they've done some interesting collaborations with the local gravel group here in Portland, OMTM, Our Mother the Mountain. As you guys know, we did a Bikes and Bourbon with Ron Lewis from OMTM. So moving on to the bike, this is a custom gravel bike. The owner of the bike was gracious enough to let me take it for a spin, get it dirty in Forest Park here in Portland. So thanks, Ryan, for making this review possible. So the bike has a steel frame and fork, and it's a mix of Columbus Life and Zona tubing. It's got these cool sliding Paragon dropouts, and it was designed to be built for both 700C and 650B. In this current configuration, it is 700. The bike is set up one by with some White Industries cranks, and on the controls, it's using some SRAM hydraulic drifters. The wheels are by another local brand here in town known as Hi-Fi, and for a complete build like this, the MSRP would be around $5,000 or $2,300 for the frame and fork. Speaking of the fork, definitely one of my favorite parts of the bike. It's got this cool segmented construction. There are braze-ons on the shoulders of the fork to attach things like a rando rack or a porteur rack, as well as the adventure mounts on the side of the fork to run things like a anything cage or even potentially lowriders. One nice detail I liked about the Utilifork in this instance is actually the color painted to match bolts. I know some people don't like the look of the shiny barnacles on the fork, and by having the bolts painted to match, it really makes it look a little bit more discreet and cleaner in the front when you're not running a rack. Definitely something I'm going to incorporate if or when I get a custom bike built in the future. So I think one of the interesting design challenges with this bike is the rider Ryan, like me, is a shorter rider, but he still really wanted to run 700C tires. So in speaking to him, there seemed like there was a lot of kind of geometry, jujitsu in the front end to make sure that he wouldn't get toe overlap when running the 700C tires. I get the same problems, and when I first picked up the bike, I thought I would have a similar concern. Whatever they did to the front end, I was able to pedal and make turns without getting toe overlap, even though it's a small frame and has big 700C tires. So how does the bike ride? For me, on pavement, it was a pretty smooth and stable ride. The chainstays are at about 435, and the trail number in the front is 60. So it's not super tucked in the back and doesn't have super low trail in the front, meaning on pavement, definitely runs a little bit more on the stable side. But this bike does totally come to life when you take it off pavement. I took it up through Forest Park here in Portland, Oregon, a really popular kind of mixed terrain route. And when riding that, the geometry choices totally made sense. The route was kind of slippery and sloppy, and while climbing out of the saddle, that longer chainstay length definitely kept the bike more planted, keeping the weight a little bit more evenly distributed so I wasn't spinning out in the rear when it got really steep. So the geometry choices definitely made it a stable climber in the slop. Going over the really chunky, rough stuff, the longer feeling geometry really made it easy to handle. I wasn't micromanaging the handling of the bike. Whenever I hit a big baby head or something, it would generally keep its line and keep moving straight. I think where this bike really shone was on the descent. It was super stable, banked through the corners nicely, wasn't squirrely at all. Full confidence in this bike as a descender, both on rough stuff and on pavement. What I really liked about this bike is that it's a kind of bike that kind of just disappears beneath you. It's not a bike that you have to micromanage or that's constantly reminding you it's there. You just hop on it, pedal, you can enjoy the scenery, you can focus on other things other than bike handling. When I was riding this bike, I kept thinking that this would have been perfect for Dirty Kansas. It's definitely fast enough. It's not, I wouldn't call it quick. It's not a crit machine made for quick accelerations, but it will hold its speed and do so in ultimate comfort. I think the slightly slacker front end and longer rear end are going to be a huge benefit on super long rides like DK. When you're riding 10 plus hours and you're fatigued and the last thing you want to do is have to micromanage the steering. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of the Gorilla Monsoon, or what the Gorilla Monsoon is attempting to do, but this executes it really well in a much lighter package. Now, I didn't have a scale, so I didn't get to actually weigh the bike, but my guess is that it would be in the low to middle 20s, as opposed to the Gorilla Monsoon, which was, I think, about 28 pounds. So Smeltzer keeps all the utility, but still manages to be pretty performance oriented. In terms of cons, I mean, it's not my bike, but if it were, I would probably swap out the gearing to a subcompact road double, just because that's how I roll. So I think Chad Smeltzer did a great job with this bike. If you're looking for a super comfortable, long gravel day ride bike, definitely check out his work. If you guys have any questions about the bike, leave those in the comments below. And as always, keep the supple side down.